People at work call me the Jira guy, but the truth is, I only use it because I have it. Several years ago, I started using Jira at work for helping my team track what they're doing, to help perform things like Sarbanes-Oxley auditing to make sure the team was on track. It was the tool that I happened to have, so I figured out how to use it to meet my needs. I figured out how to go into Jira and set up a project. Now, this initially took a lot of what I call just beating my head into the keyboard repeatedly, but eventually I figured it out. And the more I used it, the more I discovered other ways it could be used. I also started talking to more people about how they use it, and eventually got to know our team that managed Jira. I learned a ton from that group on how to shape Jira to meet the needs of my team. Now, just because I use Jira doesn't mean I think it's the best thing. In this case, it just happens to be the tool that I had. When folks ask me why, I tend to joke that you could use a screwdriver to hit a nail in, but you really need a hammer. Now, in my case, Jira might be the best tool for the job. But what I haven't done is done something like a needs analysis to sit down and figure out, is Jira the best possible tool? It was simply the one that my workplace happened to have, and it fit the needs well enough. Now, all of that said, Jira is an excellent tool for tracking tickets and workflows. However, instead of just grabbing the first tool that we have access to or looking at a list of them and saying that one, we really need to be stepping back and figuring out what we need to do. Just because Jira exists doesn't mean we should be using it. Perhaps other alternatives are better for our team or for our specific use case. Now, this is an ideal state because sometimes we don't have the budget, or the tool isn't available, or we can't convince people to use it. But we should always be striving to first identify why we need the tool and what we need it for before we go out and get the tool. In my work, I'd spend a lot of time thinking through this, talking to folks who would be using this type of system, trying to understand why they would need something like a ticketing system, for this example, to be better at their job. Sometimes we can use existing systems. One example I remember was moving a team off of Zendesk onto Jira. In the first week, they complained bitterly and really wanted to go back to Zendesk. So I just asked them why. I asked them to write down why they wanted to switch back. They gave me a list of 15 or 20 things, and they were all mainly around how to use the system. They simply hadn't been trained or shown how to find things, or how to set up dashboards, or what the buttons did. So in this case, they didn't want to use Jira because it didn't do what they needed. They didn't want to use Jira because they didn't know how to use it. And all of the features in Jira were probably better for them than Zendesk, but because they didn't understand how it worked, they didn't want to use it. So making time to understand those systems is very important. Taking that time to write down what you need it to do and understand why you need those features will give you this nice list you can then compare with. You could go to Jira and say, answer these questions for me, or show me how it works. And then you could go to Zendesk and Asana and Monday and all the other systems that might do what you need. And at the end of that, you'll then understand what they all do, and you can make a more informed decision on which one works. Now, the worst example I have of this was a team selecting to use a particular tool just because an executive pointed at it and said, use that one. There was no discussion over why they chose this tool or how it would work. They just looked at a list of tools and said, give me that one. The team used it, they implemented it, they tried their best to work within that system. And about 3 months later, they had to change systems. They ran into too many challenges using the one that was just blindly selected. So it does take time to figure out which system is best, but it can help avoid a lot of issues and challenges going forward, especially the cost of having to buy a system and then back out of that contract and find a new one. Folks don't want to have to fight with the system to do their job. They want to do their job. They want to be good software developers. They want to be good implementation managers or financial analysts or artists or construction workers. They don't want to have to fight with a computer to do what they want to do. So for me, it's incredibly important when time is available to step back, ask ourselves, what do we need this system to do? And then evaluate systems based on that. Now, as I mentioned at the start of this, sometimes we don't have that luxury. And instead, we're stuck with a system that we have to use. Maybe it's one the company's paid a lot of money for, or maybe they just don't want to change. Or maybe it has specific features that some folks where you work need to use. When that is the case, it becomes your job to figure that system out. Take time to go through and explore it. Click on some buttons. See what happens. Be careful you don't delete anything important or break it, but get hands-on with that tool. This is how I learned Jira. I opened it up and started clicking around. Sure, I made some mistakes and I had to ask for help, but they were honest mistakes. I didn't know, and that helped me build relationships with the people who did know, who then showed me how it works. Not only did that give me a great knowledge of the system, it built some great friendships with these people. They saw that I was truly interested in them and what they do, and so they were more open to helping me out and expand and grow. That then opened opportunities for me to use, in this case, Jira, to solve some complex problems the business had that they couldn't otherwise solve. Another way of learning the system is to look up documentation. Watch videos on my YouTube channel about Confluence. Just Google around, how does Asana work? See what official documentation the companies provide. But take time to do that homework, to understand how the systems work. This will give you more skills to build on, make you more valuable to your team, and open up opportunities that you didn't have before. It does take some time and a little bit of effort, but I found it to be more than worth it, especially with those systems that I see in multiple jobs. Jira, for example, I've used it almost every job over the past 10 years. So taking time early in my career to understand it, to go in and punch the keys and to talk to the people and to look up the YouTube videos and documentation, helped me not only at that first job, but at every job since. It's also helped me connect with people at every job because I can just ask around, hey, who's the Jira person at this company? I would like to talk to them. And you have a shared language. You can bring your experience and apply that to the job to make it a bit easier. So even though folks sometimes call me a Jira guy, it's not necessarily true. Sure, it's a useful system and I found how it works, but it's the best one that I happen to have. So I use it and I make it work for what I'm doing. If you found this interesting or helpful, please like and subscribe. Drop your questions or comments in the comments and let me know your systems experience. How did you end up using systems that you happen to be using? Are you the version of a Jira guy or gal or person at your company? And what is that like? All right, that's all for now, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in another one of these soon.